So it is Blue Day, right? With Audrey. All right. Okay. We can call meeting to order. All right. So let's go ahead and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us. We do appreciate your patience this morning. And we are set and ready to do a roll call and determine a quorum.
Michael Brown.
Here.
Peter Dillingham.
Here.
Shaylin Hanning.
Here.
Edward Hillary.
Here.
Superintendent Hoffmeister.
Here. All right. Do we have a quorum?
Yes.
Did we comply with the proper posting for Open Meetings Act? Okay, very good. All right, with that, we are open now for our regular meeting for Careertech, and let's begin. Please join me for a Pledge of Allegiance, a salute to the Oklahoma flag, followed by a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of Oklahoma. Its symbols of peace unite all people. Okay. All right, thank you. All right. Well, very good again. It's great to see everyone on a very warm day. I guess they're saying it's going to stay this way for a while. But we're eager to get the meeting started, and I know that you have comments to make as well, so I'm just going to go ahead and move to item number 1.04. Dr. Denny.
Okay, thank you so much. Welcome everyone on this hot day, and as Shaylin was saying earlier, some people are on vacation, so we're missing some people, but we've been very busy at Careertech. I'm not sure we mentioned this last time, we may have, but we have expended our lottery funds, $4.5 million in lottery funds. And Careertech got $2,064,816 in grants to 26 out of the 29 tech centers. So that's very exciting for the 22-23 year. And $2,056,516 went to our K-12 schools. K-12 districts for the 22-23 year, along with 38 scholarships worth $400,000. So we're very excited that, I guess I shouldn't say we're excited people play the lottery, but they do. So we're excited we reap the benefits from people playing the lottery. I'll say it like that. Summertime is a time when our CTSOs go to conferences, national conferences. And so we had more than 150 Oklahoma FCCLA students compete in 91 events in the 77th National Leadership Conference. And they brought home over 50 contest honors. Oklahoma Family and Career and Community Leaders of America had a delegation of 317 people, had 10 national champions, 5 runner-ups, 3 third-place finishers, along with 41 top 10 qualifiers. So our students did really well. In addition, our state chapter received an award for a membership increase. And so Oklahoma FCCLA broke its membership record with an additional 14,700 members, not additional, total of 14,700 members. And we have the state president in attendance. She's from Westville, Aubrey Phillips, and she accepted the membership increase award. So we're very excited about FCCLA. Then moving on to Oklahoma Skills USA, they brought home honors from Atlanta, Georgia at the 58th National Leadership and Skills Conference. They won 78 medals, 38 gold, 22 silver and 14 bronze. And they placed second in the nation to all the medals earned of all the Oklahoma Skills chapters. We had 177 competitors place in top 10 during the conference competitions. Then moving on to TSA, the Oklahoma Technology Student Association, they had their national conference in Dallas. They won the award for the most middle school chapters. And the Oklahoma Chapter Advisors of the Year were recognized were Susan James of Santa Fe High School in Edmond and Paul Wallenberg from Purcell Junior High School. They earned 3 first place awards, 2 second place awards, and 3 third place awards. First place awards went to teams from Stillwater Junior High, Edmond, Santa Fe High School, and Roland Middle School. So they did real well. And we move on to Hosa. Hosa is our health occupation student organization, and they brought home more than 60 medals, along with honors from their Hosa meeting was in Nashville, Tennessee. 225 students, advisors, and guests represented 47 Oklahoma Hosa chapters. And the students earned 22 first place gold medals, 20 second place silver medals, and 19 third bronze medals. And in addition, we had 23 students score in the top 10 in their competitions. And I don't know if you've heard this story or not, but this is pretty exciting for our post-secondary students. While in Nashville at the conference, the very first night, 2 paramedic instructors and their students were approached by 2 severely injured victims that had been attacked by someone with a machete. The paramedic students immediately ran toward the victims. They provided life-saving first aid, putting their training and their skills to work. They bandaged, they applied a tourniquet, and they attended to a severe neck wound. And although these individuals were critically wounded, both are expected to survive, thanks to their quick and professional actions. And I actually got to meet one of the instructors. She's from the Kiamichi Tech Center. And I said, wow, she goes, it was great. These were post-secondary students and about ready to graduate. This was the last thing they did before, so they'd had the training. She goes, we stood back and gave instructions, and they just performed beautifully. There was a policeman on site that came, and he had a first aid bag, and that's all the equipment they had. And they saved these 2 people's lives. So I'm very proud of those students from Kiamichi. We've started a new editorial product called Careertech Conversations, and it's a video podcast series featuring the many ways Careertech is helping our students and our businesses. And I was fortunate enough to be one of the first people interviewed on the podcast, and then Carter Merkel, who's our program manager for OKPTAC, was the second. So you can go to the bottom of our Careertech page if you want to listen to these podcasts. You can go ahead and skip mine and just go on to Carter's. That'll be just fine. We've been hosting our new teacher academies. They come to Stillwater or Guthrie. We've had the Hosa New Teacher Academies 2 different days in the new Guthrie facility, and that's been very, very nice and a kind of a central location. And we've enjoyed being in their new facility. And then BMITE had theirs at Meridian. TSA is going to have theirs at Meridian. So they bring in all the new teachers, and sometimes second-year teachers if they missed the new teacher academy by being hired after it was over. So it's been fun to see the excitement in these teachers as they prepare to take over these classrooms. This past week, we underwent a crisis communication response training, and it was handled very well. We're very excited that, in this day and age, being ready for anything that might happen is very important. So we're taking it very seriously. The last thing I want to share is August 1st and 2nd, we're going to have our 55th annual Oklahoma Summit. This year we will be in Tulsa at the Cox Business Convention Center. It's a joint summit between the agency and then our association, OKACTE. So we've been working very hard on all the final details. The conference hosts everyone associated with Careertech. So we expect to have more than 4,000 people there.
Great.
I think you're going to join
Yes.
us. Yeah, so we're very excited about that. It's a great time to network through divisions, and also it's an opportunity for professional development for our teachers. So we've been very busy even though it's summer. We have had some people leave the agency, so we're busy hiring new people to fill the different spots in the agency. But I tell everybody at the agency, summertime is when people in educational entities make the move. And so it's a normal situation, so we're just looking forward to see who comes on board, and we're wishing everyone who either retired or moved on to other jobs the best of luck, and we will miss them. But anybody have any questions? If you do, the experts are over there. No. Anybody have any questions? Or anything you want to add? Okay.
That's great.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. All right, so let's move our attention to the item 2, 6.01, which is a presentation from the Careertech Foundation.
Excuse me, do we need to vote on this?
We sure do.
Okay.
Let's do that. All right, 1.05. This is discussion and vote on the minutes from the June 16th, 2022 regular board meeting. Is there a motion to
I
approve?
make a motion to accept the minutes.
Second.
All right, motion and second. Any discussion? Questions? All right, seeing none, please call the roll.
Mr. Hillary,
Yes.
Ms. Hanning,
Yes.
Mr. Dillingham,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Superintendent Hoffmeister.
Yes. All right, that motion carries. Excellent. And now we would welcome you.
Thank you.
Chair. Thank you.
Chair Hoffmeister, Dr. Denny, thanks for having me. My name's Dwight Hughes. I get to serve as Superintendent at Autry Technology Center. Before I get started on the foundation, just a quick comment if I can. Wanted to say thank you. I started my career at Meridian Tech and then went to Northwest Tech, and I've been at High Plains, back to Autry. I love Northwest Oklahoma, but I did want to say to these, and I heard Dr. Denny say experts over here, and we truly think that in the field, but I want to say thank you to this group sitting over here. We truly rely on these folks at the Tech Center. I feel like it's just extra staff for us that we can call on at about any time and get the answers we need. So I just wanted to say publicly to you guys, thank you very much for all you do for the schools. You probably don't hear it enough, but I want you to know at Autry, we do appreciate it. And everywhere I've been, it's always been great to have that group. So thank you. Now to what I was asked to do, I'll get to that. You do have a folder, and I have a wonderful marketing department, so shameless plug. The folders are Autry Tech, not Careertech Foundation, but you got a pin from us. But we did want to kind of give some highlights and let you know that Oklahoma Careertech has a wonderful foundation. I think sometimes it gets a little overshadowed because most every tech center has a foundation of their own. I know Autry does, but we did want you as our board to know that we do have a foundation. It's an active foundation. We had a phenomenal Hall of Fame banquet, and the information in your folder, you can see the 6 inductees. I would say that all 6 are Careertech champions. I mean, they all have given, most of them 30 plus years, some in the 40s to Careertech. And so, and also I felt like a good cross-section of Careertech. We had ag-related, we had family and consumer sciences, we had a couple of tech center superintendents, we had folks from the agency, we had folks from the field. So I felt like that was a great representation this year because of COVID. We were playing a little catch-up. We usually don't have that many. But I also proud to say that it was our largest attended Hall of Fame ever at, I believe, 340 attendees. And that's a big thanks to a lot of the agency staff to help pull that off because we sure couldn't do it without them. There's also a list in there of, I put in the Oath of Grimes Scholarship, besides the Hall of Fame banquet, which I think is a very important piece that the Careertech Hall of Fame, or the Careertech Board does, Foundation Board does. I gave you a list of our officers on the board. And as you can see, the board itself and the officers, it's a good cross-section, I think, of some retirees, but also some current folks, some industry folks. So I feel like we have a really good board that does a really good job when we can get together and talk about things that relate to the foundation. So very proud of that. And then the last sheet in there is the Oath of Grimes Scholarship. Thought you might be interested in the amounts that have been given out. The one thing that I would draw your attention to is spring of '22. We'd been rolling along at about 380 to 450,000 in requests. And last year we went to 900,000 in requests. So the demand is there. And so I was excited to see that our Hall of Fame actually made money this year. We actually cleared about 18,000, and that money goes back into the foundation to help with these types of scholarships. But Brian Bobeck called me because he said he wasn't going to be here, and I've had Brian out, and I wanted to invite any of you that want to come to Enid, and maybe if Peter's willing, we can tag team a tour of Autry and also of No Man's Land beef jerky. But we'd love to have you. I don't know if you guys have been invited to school, but we'd love to have you at Autry if you could. But Brian called me, and I said since he was here, I was going to pull the joke on him. But I think a Bobeck Foundation award would be a phenomenal scholarship in his name. And so I told him I was going to hit him since he wasn't here, so. But anyway, I don't want to take up much more time. We did want you, the board, to know that there is a great Careertech Foundation, and I would answer any questions I could, and like Dr. Dean said, if they're hard, we'll throw them out to the experts. So.
That's right.
And if not, we would invite you, we'll make sure you guys get invited. The next Hall of Fame banquet will be the fall of '24. We usually don't do them every year, but you guys are for sure invited, and we'll make sure that you get that invitation. But and before I sit down, I just want to say thank you to this board. We do appreciate you. We know you guys have full-time jobs outside of here, and I know this one pays so well, but we do appreciate your time and appreciate all you do for Careertech. So.
Thank you, Will.
Thank you so much for all you do, and the leadership is just so critical with those kinds of supports that you give to the communities of Careertech and all those we serve.
Thank you.
And thanks for
having
your
me.
work in Enid.
Appreciate it.
Love being there. All right. Very good. Now, next is our item 2.02, which is presentation on jobs for America's graduates or JAG.
And I just want to take this opportunity to introduce Mr. H.L. Baird, and he has been tasked with handling the JAG program for the Careertech Center, and he received this last October, and he's prepared a presentation. So, H.L., take it away.
Okay, well, thank you for the opportunity to share our JAG story. As Dr. Denny said, I was asked to provide leadership for JAG starting in very end of September and October. And this is more of a brief than it would be a presentation, so I'm going to be cognizant of your time. When asked to do the presentation, I thought, what is the real thing? And for us, it's serving more students. With JAG, we're going to be able to serve more students. So I want to talk about why Careertech is leading. We can reach more students that we're not currently reaching. It's a new audience. We want to talk about dropout prevention, and then we want to talk about how JAG is more than dropout prevention. I want to talk about why we're creating a new model, what we've learned in the time that we've had JAG. We want to talk about the flexibility this new model creates for schools and therefore the students. And then more students at less cost. So why is Careertech leading? 1 in every 4 students drop out. So in a school week, someone drops out every 26 seconds. Why is Careertech doing this? Because we need to. Reach more students. It's an additional opportunity for us to reach students and talk about workforce, about the world of work, how it's done, how to get there. It's designed for students that struggle in a traditional classroom. We're going to talk a little bit about how they do it a little bit different, how we are doing it a little different in the JAG OK classroom. And it can be delivered in most any high school in Oklahoma. Dropout prevention and dropout recovery. Best dropout recovery is an effective dropout prevention program. It's a little bit of that old saying, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So if you look at what Careertech does, if we reverse engineer, we start at skill centers. And then we have adult and basic education. Then we have dropout recovery. And now if we have dropout prevention, it's a comprehensive plan to engage some of the most challenged citizen students we have. So if we do this right, we can go from a potential dropout to a skilled employee for the workforce. And the key is getting them before they drop out. How we do this is the JAG advantage is simply 3 simple, I don't want to say there's nothing simple about it. Let me back up and say that. There's 3 elements that the model uses. It's trauma-informed care. So what they do is they seek to find the right student. And so we do what's an ACEs score evaluation. And I call it ACEs-ish because we're not counselors. But we want to identify what baggage or challenges that the student brings to high school. and see if we can engage that. The specialists are trained in how to deal with students that have had trauma. Again, they're not counselors, but it's continuous training on how to deal with a student that's had some abuses. They react differently in the classroom. Project-based learning, this is where we're talking about how it's designed for people that don't typically succeed in a traditional classroom. Most all of the delivery is done through project-based learning. And they also have another element, it's called voice and choice. So they may be able to choose from 3 different projects how to prove mastery. So they could choose from a presentation that's stand up, they can choose from a paper if they wanted to do it. And then the last piece is to have what's called a voice and choice, where they appeal to how they think they can prove mastery. And so they work with the instructor and they say, yes, if you can do that, you'll meet these competencies. And then another element on it, the specialists are required to do employer engagement, help them get a job. They're stay connected to them 12 months after graduation, which is unique. And the specialists are trained on how to do employer engagement. It's really critical that we get across that it's more than just dropout recovery. Okay, so if we go to a school, one of the schools we have signed up is Watts, Oklahoma. It's a small school. Another small school is Wewoka. Not all the students that are in JAG are dropout risk people. They're not. But they all can benefit to all the skills that JAG addresses. The 37 competencies that a senior does, they're all the skills that employers identify that students need today. This is a little anecdotal, but it's really my experience. When we talk to employers and we ask them what you want in an employee, they'll talk to 3 to 5 things that are soft skills, employability skills, before they ever talk about welding. That's what shows that this is valuable. JAG's whole purpose is to get them to understand that the life that they want is connected to getting through that first step, and that's graduation. Provides the why and the how. Why you need it, using trauma-informed instruction, project-based learning, and employer engagement, they provide the how to get there. We let them practice in a safe environment. In other words, they're new skills. We're going to get them out of their comfort zone, but they're going to do it while we still have a connection with them, even 12 months after they graduate. And I've talked about that it elevates the importance of high school graduation. Prior to COVID, the numbers we were seeing were 67,000 to 70,000 opportunity youth in Oklahoma. For those that may be listening online that don't know the term, it's 16 to 24-year-olds that are neither in school nor at work. We believe this can have an impact. This is the curriculum map. These are the major chunks that the seniors or the first year students will go through. All of those, my kids could use, my grandkids could use. They're not dropout risks. Those are skills that all students can use. We talked about early on and that we were going to talk about how we're doing more students, less money. By moving the model from where they're state employees to school employees, provides much more flexibility at the implementation execution level, where the school has a lot of choice in how they do it. We ran into some challenges originally with state employees on the school calendar. That was one of the things that this fixed. Less cost per student, more flexibility in the school. So that's the brief. Are there any questions?
I do have a question. So you just mentioned that you are spending less and serving more.
Yes.
So what did you spend last year?
Last year we were around $3,000 a student with the state employees. And now if we do this model, we'll be in line with what we spend in dropout prevention, or excuse me, dropout recovery, which is around $1,100 to $1,200 per student.
And how many students, so what was that total amount? How many,
Total amount?
yeah,
The actual budget for last year, I'd have to defer to Lisa for actual numbers.
yeah, thanks.
Lisa, would you come to one of the mics, please, so that their viewing audience can hear you?
Okay, sure. Okay, come up here.
I'll come up here to you. For fiscal year '22, JAG was budgeted at $575,000.
Okay, and how many students were served?
Roughly 200.
That.
I'm sorry,
Roughly 200, I believe.
200 students?
But how much did we spend? That's what we budgeted. How much did we spend?
That's the difference.
That was what she asked.
You have that, I don't have how much we spent.
It was considerably less.
It was less than that.
And those 200 students were in how many schools or districts?
They were originally in 4,
Okay,
and halfway through the year, we had a staffing issue that took us down to 3.
okay, so 3 schools.
That's why I need to provide you the number
Sure.
for that we actually spent, because when I come up with the $3,000 number, that was the actual budget. And I apologize, I don't have that with me, what it was exactly.
Okay. And then this year, what again is the student enrollment that you are going to serve?
We are starting over, so we're doing 6 schools, and depending on which school it is, they can enroll anywhere from 35 to 60. 60 is the cap
Okay,
per specialist.
so we don't know, obviously, but they are targeting. And how did
We
you,
know what they're targeting, we don't know exactly what they will be.
okay. And then this year, what are you budgeting?
This year, we have budgeted out of general appropriation, $388,440, and out of revolving funds, $45,000. And a reminder that $45,000 is for Broken Bow. It was a donation specifically for that program.
Okay.
From Weyerhaeuser.
From
Warehouse.
From Weyerhaeuser, okay. And so how then are you serving in 6 schools that you're starting? What, then you are serving more students with less funds? Can you explain how you're doing that? And also, you have that, I just want to understand this commitment that you're making, I guess, in the MOU that carries, you're going to follow students, however many students this is, for a full year after graduation.
Yes, ma'am. The teachers will be on a 12-month contract.
Okay,
And part of their charge and part of the metrics at which we do the MOU and this conditional, they have to meet the requirements of the MOU. And so the specialists actually engage the student for 12 months. After graduation, they go to the employer, they connect with the student in various ways, whatever way they can, and try to say, how are you doing and what can we do to help? Are there new barriers? What can we do? Sometimes it's just guiding them to the right other service provider. Instead of letting them kind of sit out there and languish, they direct them to another service provider, whether it's WIOA or DRS, whatever that situation might be.
are there additional questions? I will have some, but I don't want to
Who's
take.
the MOU between?
The Oklahoma Department of Careertech
Mhm.
and the school. And so
The high school or the,
the high school.
okay. So 25% of high schoolers in Oklahoma drop out.
That's the data we got from the State Department of Education.
Wow.
It is true that so there's a difference between dropout and graduation rate. And this is very serious. issue and very serious problem. This is where I run into my challenge with this program. The need is immense. This is serving at the very most 360 students. So every year we have about 42,000, 43,000, somewhere in that ballpark, that are set to graduate. And so when you are seeing resources that are pretty significant, close to 500,000 before, or over 500,000 last year, and now you're talking about easily 425,000 on such a small number of students and such a large problem. I'm questioning whether or not this is actually good use of funds, especially when I understand you're going with one employee into a school and you're giving them a caseload of 35 to 60 people, but we're committing the money. How do we know? Is there like a limit that they have to reach a certain amount of students to keep that program? Can you tell us more about your MOU? I'm glad you brought up the MOU. What are those deliverables that are expected for those funds, and how do you evaluate? Is there an evaluation schedule throughout the year? And how do you evaluate the success of that program? What is written in that MOU?
Okay, those are all good questions, and I will tell you that I probably started out that way in October, saying, what are those metrics and how do we know what we're doing? And that's part of the reason why we created the new model. The costs were pretty excessive the way that we were doing it, and it didn't fit really well against state employees in the school. So, but the other part is to answer your question about how do we know that it's performing well, is we do every quarter we go in and we check their performance levels on their data, what they put in, and see how they're doing. And so we don't wait a full year and then pay for it. We check them 4 times along the year to make sure that they're performing at a high level, because you're right, this is not a cheap program, but I think we need to focus that if we're doing this right, we're getting the most vulnerable. In education, my experience has been, you spend 80% of your time on 20% of your students. A little bit like this here is that they're our most vulnerable, and if we do the ACEs score properly, we should have the right students in there. And so the metrics is they've got to meet 90% graduation rate, that sort of thing. There's a 6 of 6 number of dropouts, the number which is graduation, but also number of suspensions, how many barriers are removed. The metrics is, I'd be happy to share with anybody what that is.
You said a 90% graduation,
That's our target.
so the max potential 360, at most 324 are actually going to graduate after participating in this program.
Yes.
So one of your last points was help them with the career path.
Yes.
So are they given a list of things, or if I don't know what my career path is, here's suggested lists of, you could be this or this, any number of careers, or
We incorporate, I'm sorry,
how do they figure that out if they don't know?
we incorporate things like our OK Career Guide. It's a system where you go in and what are your interests, what do you want your life to look like, and then what your education plan is, or it helps you generate the education plan. So we use that tool. We also use Virtual Job Shadow, which is another piece where they get to go look at what that job really is like through videos and more expansive experiential things. So it's a deliberate plan to provide them, when we talk about the trauma-informed care, what I like about JAG is it doesn't say what's wrong with you, it says what happened to you. And so we take all those things and we try to help them find out where they want to go. and give them the plan to get there.
Is the opportunity for military service in any of that?
It is. It's much like our Careertech evaluation system, where on continuing higher ed, post-secondary education, military, that sort of thing.
So what 6 schools are you looking at doing that in this year?
This year, the schools that have signed up to do it are Watts, Wewoka, Broken Bow, Broken Arrow, Glenpool, and Durant. My apologies to Durant, it took me a minute to get there. So it's really a diverse group. It's rural and more urban.
I have a question. How is this different than Icap? Because Icap is now a requirement for all students and is also far more, from what you described, robust in the platform that all schools already have now a state requirement to implement what has been piloted for 3 years, and this last year was the first year for full implementation. And actually, they were expecting only the 43,000 required in law to be a part of that, and it was over 300,000 that have become part of tying into the OK Career Guide system, all of the build out with workforce development, with the Department of Labor, with Department of Commerce, and tying in with all of the higher education, military service, career tech, all of that comes together in that system that the state's invested millions of dollars to do in all of Common Ed. So I'm having a struggle here, understanding why we're having duplicative, if you will, but at the same time, a very expensive program for such few students that has yet to really, I'm not hearing other than we're gonna look back at what graduation rate was for those students. What are those metrics during the year that you will be able to share that this program is on track? Because that's where it's very easy, it sounds like, especially from last year. And it's my understanding that there were even very, very few students that were actually engaged in that program compared to that 200 number.
Well, I can only tell you from as far as the data comes, that we had like almost 200 students enrolled last year. And so those are the numbers that I can share, because those are the numbers
Sure.
that the data system.
So those are students in a class, is that how that comes? It's like an elective class,
It
or
is an
how
elective
is it
class.
delivered?
It's delivered much like any other elective class. They show up at third period and they come into class, and then they start their project-based learning. They do their workforce development training. It's much like any other class. Back to your question about how is it different from Icap, I think it's very complementary to Icap. Careertech has embraced Icap completely.
Yes.
And so the major difference is, if we do this right, we've got students that probably aren't going to be there to finish their Icap. So I don't contend that it costs more per student to do JAG than a standard student. Don't have a conflict with that at all. If we do it right, we've got the students that probably wouldn't be there during their senior year. Dropout prevention. In those schools, those small schools, you're providing services to them in workforce development, career development.
Are you passing off any expense to districts? I'm curious.
It's a contract for services, and so they have some skin in the game, and we see that as a good thing. They have to provide travel to the training. We talked about the trauma-informed, project-based. It's very deliberate and purposeful training. Part of their role is to provide that travel, that commitment to specialist development. And then there's also a Ctso. And if they choose to participate in the Ctso, the expenses of those are on them.
And for those watching, what is CTSO?
My apologies. career technical student organization. And it's called the National Association, and it is all about career development.
Is this coming out of the state appropriated agency budget?
Yes, it is.
And what is the total state appropriated agency budget, not pass through?
The agency budget of
State appropriated.
state appropriated operational budget, $21,778,201.
Wow, how many employees in your state appropriated budget?
212, I believe, was in what was presented.
I didn't realize how much larger the Careertech state budget was than the State Department of Education. Ours has been 15 million every year for 450 employees. Wow, that's amazing. We actually got 19 million this year. So you have a state appropriate budget. Somehow I was thinking it was closer to 2 million, 3 million
No,
for the office.
no, operational, and this is field support, administration, things such as facilities, everything. $21,778,201. And that supports all state agency employees,
Skill set.
Oh, does that
skill centers.
include-
It also includes
Oh,
our skill centers.
That's not what I mean. So that's not employees in skill centers. I'm saying your state agency budget, where this is coming from this, not pass through.
Right, this is not pass through. This is but our operational, how we have it budgeted includes our skill centers employees, because they are agency employees. They are state employees.
Okay.
Do you pay dues to like a national organization?
We have an affiliation fee, it's $25,000 to the National JAG. What we get for that is a data system that helps us track we're trying to get away from the term barriers, but the ACEs score outcomes, it helps us track those. It also helps us track where they are in their education, whether they need math, tutoring, everything, and right down to how many hours they spend in community service, how many hours they spend at work. So we get a pretty robust data system that's specifically designed for this. We also have two other platforms. One is kind of a share place where all the JAG specialists around the nation share what their project-based learning that work for those trauma-informed care environments. And then they've just brought on a new one that's, one thing that we learned from COVID was that asynchronous and synchronous distance education is more powerful. So we can create cohorts for training the specialists. And so they've created they've contracted with another company to, again, commit to the growing of the specialists and therefore the students.
Is a specialist a full-time job?
It is a 12-month contract in this new model with the school.
What do they do in those months when students are not in class?
They're tasked with that 12-month follow-up, going out and connecting with the students. That was another place, quite frankly, that we couldn't justify 40 hours a week for a state employee to do that. And so many times the school ultimately would be the one that decides what that is. Again, we have the metrics in the MOU that says you need to be operating at this level. You have the freedom to do it however you can, or however you see fit.
I know this program's in its infancy. What would you see it being 5 years or 10 years from now? And what would the success and the reach of schools be at that time? And is the cost incremental, or will you get some benefits of scale as it scales across more schools?
That's a great question, and that is exactly how we're looking at it. What do we want it to be? There are other elements. Right now, we're doing just a multi-year program that's a junior, senior, well, it begins 9th grade through 12th grade. They have an out-of-school program for those that have dropped out that we're looking at. But I see this going out and performing, and we make those adjustments. We make those decisions based on this performance. I can tell you from other states you couldn't take it away from them. They just do so well at it. So, big fan of looking over the fence, see what's working in other states. We're going to implement that, and we're going to move forward. I think foundationally, in the 40-year history of JAG, is pretty darn impressive in the number of students and the way the students will testify what JAG did for them. It's worth giving it a commitment.
The specialist paid by JAG, or are they a,
School employee.
they're a school employee and then you remunerate the school
Yes.
or reimburse the school?
Yes.
Was this a competitive grant then? Because that's a great question. How did you select, or who has access to this? How did you select who is being awarded these grants?
Quite frankly, it was a first come, first serve. We sent out to all the schools that had career tech programs and said, we've got this program, we want to grow it, who's interested? And quite frankly, the timeline was so short that that was the best way to do it in our mind, in our estimation. So we were very pleased that it came back with a diverse group. I mean, Broken Arrow's a big city, in my mind. I'm from Woodward, so it's a big place. And Watts is pretty small. Wewoka's pretty small, Durant. So we have a pretty diverse group that we're doing this, and we're going to learn from that. And we hope to absolutely leverage economies of scale as we move forward.
How many total schools applied for it?
I had 16 interested, and through the conversation, we ended up looking at how much money we could budget it, and we settled on 6. And that's also Weyerhaeuser's commitment to JAG in all their Weyerhaeuser communities helped us get this first year started with the $45,000.
So is Weyerhaeuser in all of these communities that are awarded this grant?
Weyerhaeuser is at the national level a supporter of JAG National, and they are looking at communities and they want to expand. They're going to do it just like what we're talking about. We're going to take it, learn, and grow. And so Broken Bow, I cannot speak to how we got to that because I think that was determined before October when my involvement began.
Okay, so I just have to say, there are some red flags for me. Anytime you have a competitive grant and it's already determined that certain district gets this, or that you end up with a program that is already, we heard in our last board meeting, this was just a directive. We're doing this, and Careertech is going to do this from an interest of the governor. And yet, I will tell you the history here. We also brought JAG in to when Oklahoma was competing with Careertech Higher Ed. The chancellor, the director of Careertech, myself, all went. We were 42 states applied to be a part of the J.P. Morgan Chase grant. For only 10 states were selected. Oklahoma was selected through our joint effort for Icap. And when we pitched this is what we would do with your $2 million if you award it to our state, we also considered a lot of different ways to use that and build out together a joint platform for Icap that would have access to every single student in the state. And this is coming in at a time where we brought JAG in at the State Department of Education, interviewed, went through their research, looked at it, and what we found is that it's very expensive, and it ends up having impoverished kids doing low-wage skill jobs at the end. And we really want more for them. So I'm concerned about the cost. I'm concerned about the replication and the way that this landed here without a competitive bidding or without, and I understand you're paying a fee because I understand that this is something that has been, was pitched and it's here, and there was funds that were given to OEQA to run, and they realized they could not do that, and it had to come over to Careertech last year. It didn't come before the board, but I don't know how programs just transfer and money just transfers agency to agency.
I don't know. It was before
We
my
did
time.
not get money from OEQA,
You just got the program, but it wasn't funded.
correct.
So then this agency, how did you pay for that?
We used, if we go back to FY '22, kind of the history there was, I came before the board, presented a budget that included an increase of general appropriation of $1,171,338, and a lottery increase of $209,203. We did not know JAG had been transferred, if you will, to our agency at that time. So we looked at our request, actually in FY '22, due to the economic conditions, we said, we just don't want to be cut, don't reduce our budget, we'll maintain prior year funding. But if you do, have money, here's some considerations for our needs. And so we looked at that list of our suggestions for FY '22 increases. And so we said, okay, right off is the statutory requirement for FBA, and that was $805,541.
That's insurance for those who might not.
Right, technology
Flexible
centers,
benefit.
flexible benefit allowance, we're statutorily required to
Yes.
pay for that. Next, we looked on our list and said, okay, unfunded programs in our K-12 schools. So we took $365,797 and funded some unfunded programs. They were approved programs for Careertech, but they were unfunded. And so we were able to fund some of those programs. And then, of course, $209,203 was the lottery increase, and lottery has in the statute certain requirements of what can and cannot be spent. That was what I presented, that was what was approved, and then the very afternoon of that board meeting was informed that the legislative intent was to fund that technology center FBA of $805,541, but also $575,000 for JAG, and we did not know that. So I believe the next month, Dr. Mack brought that situation before the board, and also I think in some email or phone correspondence prior to that even made the board aware of that situation.
Made us aware that there was a directive that this is coming now to Careertech, and
Right.
you're going to pay for it.
Yes, as anything, when we do a program, when we do a project, we do it well, and we were going to implement it to the best of our ability. And so we used carry forward funds at that point. We couldn't go back and
Yes.
unfund the programs we had just funded. So we took carry forward funds for FY '22.
So really depleted some of the reserve, the cushion that inflation and rising costs in flexible insurance would be taken from. See, that is my problem with this. One person has decided this is important without the consideration of what's happened historically. I understand everyone has their decision that they'll make, and I appreciate that. The need is too great to use in a way that's not coordinated with the work, public funds for not some individual's project, and I understand the governor sits on the National JAG Board, so we're doing this here, or this is being presented, but it is about all kids graduating, all kids having that opportunity, and had I not known all what I do know, the presentation sounds really great and compelling, but there is much more here that needs to be considered, and that is the proper way government should work. And I'm very grateful for the work that you all have done with things that have just been directed for you to do. but this is where some of the questions that I have and concerns that I have lie. But no criticism of what you've tried to do. I am worried about your budget and the ability for you to actually take care of the mission of this and the obligations of this agency, and this is a very large amount of cushion to be gone last year. And again, you're looking at again, and this is not that many students that are able to provide services to when the same amount of money could be invested in a way that actually reaches far more. That's all I have to say about that.
Anybody else have any questions before we leave? Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much.
All right, with that, if there's a motion to consider,
It's further down on the agenda.
okay, then let's go to 3.01, which is update and discussion on the action plans of the employee engagement survey.
Well, good morning. Good to see everybody. Thanks for having me. We have a pretty good system of communications at Oklahoma Career Tech, both internal and external. There's always room for improvement, and this is what this is all about. Our communications committee has met several times to come up with some recommendations to improve both internal and external communications. We're going to wait until we have a new permanent director, to implement those recommendations, but we're pretty excited about the plan we've come up with. We do several things already to share ideas between divisions and senior leaders. The director does meet every Monday morning with the entire state agency, both in person and virtually, to discuss ideas, updates, things that are going on around the Careertech system and the various technology centers. We also have a weekly managers meeting where we discuss policies, changes in policies, initiatives that the divisions are pursuing, and we encourage those managers to disseminate that information to employees. We have a weekly staff update that we have greatly improved recently. It's a little more entertaining, has a lot more information about personnel changes, and so that's been pretty welcomed and very effective. And we have an outstanding newsletter. We call it the Director's Memo that goes out to several thousand people. So if you're not subscribed to that, I would encourage you to subscribe to our Director's Memo. In addition to all of those things, we've done several things to improve both external and internal communications. One is the new website. We have the largest state agency website. We launched the new website, I guess, in January. It's been very effective. It's much more user-friendly. I think users are staying on the website longer. They're spending more time exploring the website and learning more about the Careertech system. And it's a whole lot prettier too. So that has really, I think, improved our ability to share information, and we tie back to the website through all of our social media efforts. One of the things that Careertech did not have when I came here was an intranet site to share internal information, documents, HR information, details about benefits, things like that. And so we created a SharePoint-based intranet system. We call it the Careertech Hub, and it's been tremendously successful. And we can actually track the analytics around that as well. We are launching several new editorial products. One of those is Careertech Conversations that Dr. Denny mentioned a while ago, and we'd love to feature some of the board members on Careertech Conversations. We do plan to launch a new Careertech newscast, hopefully very soon, a 3 to 4 minute video newscast about the the things going on at tech centers and throughout the career tech system. We're pretty excited about that. We also have the director's column every month that we post on our website. That's another new editorial product. That column is also published in the Journal Record. That's been very effective in getting the word out and sharing with readers the value and benefits of the Oklahoma career tech system, which, as we all know, is one of the best career tech systems in the nation. One of the key recommendations that we came up with was to establish a recurring cross-divisional meeting with senior leaders to discuss specific topics determined by the divisions. The goal there is to improve communication between senior leaders and division staff about ongoing initiatives, important projects, and current processes and key metrics. I think that of the recommendations that we've come up with, I think that's the key recommendation for me. Another recommendation is to improve the weekly staff update. We've done that, so we have carried through on that. I did mention our Monday morning chat. We may revamp the Monday morning chat depending on what the committee discusses in the future and what the new director is interested in. So that's essentially my report. I think we got a great system for communications at Careertech. It's pretty good in my opinion, but there's plenty of room for improvement, and our communications committee is really dedicated to improving that. With that, I'll take any questions.
I do want to say I appreciate all that you do and the website, everything you've done on it in over the last year, revamping it and everything.
Well, thank you very much.
Looks great.
That means a lot, and Karen Hart, our website manager, deserves all the credit for that. So,
Thank you so
All right.
much. Great work.
thank you.
All right. Okay, now, actually, we'll have the action item.
No, Melissa, we have three.
We have two
people.
things.
We have three people here. that need to
All right.
speak to the board.
So this is 3 items.
Thank you. I'm Melissa Sturgeon. I'm the HR manager for the agency, and it's my pleasure today to share information with you about a benefits committee we formed recently. And so we had volunteers from about 7 different divisions, so we were excited to have that participation. And our goal was to review our current benefits, talk about what's positive, maybe see if there's any viability of changes or enhancements, and then we have recommended action items. So from that, the positive benefits, I can attest, I've worked in private business, I've been with a K-12 and finally a state employee. We have the best benefits hands down. So especially our insurance package, we have a flex benefit that we can spend. Oftentimes it also covers the cost of dependent coverage, and that is really hard to find these days. So I personally have my 2 kids, my 2 bonus kids. I don't pay anything for the plan that I have. It's just phenomenal. So I am a champion, definitely, for our benefits. Another significant thing that we do is we pay the 7% retirement contribution for employees as a benefit. Not all agencies, not all K-12s do that. So that is significant also. And let's see, we do have lots of options. We have PPOs and HMOs. We have dental, health, vision, and life and disability options. So we were looking, and our EAP, our Employee Assistance Program, also offers discounts on pet insurance. One thing that someone brought up is that an option? Can we add that to our benefits package? Unfortunately, in our package, it's through the state. We can't make certain changes, but we can find positive things to promote. And so that was one alternative that we had there. And then we also have different types of leave that we can use. So say enforced leave, if you need to go take care of a family member, you can use your sick leave to go take care of spouse, just other family members in the household. We also have shared leave. And so if someone has exhausted all their leave and if they qualify, they can apply for donations of leave. For someone that's had a serious health condition, that's been a lifesaver. And that's another thing that I'm so proud of that we are able to offer. A few new things. I know Jessica will also share, we had a telework committee, and so they did a lot of great work. We now can telework up to 40 hours per month, so that's a great benefit. And then thanks to Dr. Denny, we have Jeans Day on Friday, and sometimes it's the little things that really are morale boosters. So we thank her, and I think Russell might have been the one that planted that seed. Yeah. So of course we always
Reinstated it.
yeah, oh, there you go. Yeah. And we are always mindful, though, we know that if we're going to be visiting the Capitol, then Jeans Day won't apply that day. So it is administered correctly. And then we talked about some action items. Really, awareness is one of the things that we found that sometimes employees don't realize, oh, I have this benefit that I can use, and I just don't know about it. So one of our HR specialists, now weekly in our Monday morning chat, she shares both a discount and a benefit with staff, just to keep that conversation going. We also put that in our HR newsletter, and we highlight those and make sure everyone's aware. And then I know I have a personal commitment. I'll continue to monitor legislation. So even in this last session, there was an opportunity to add one more day of leave for state employees. It didn't pass that time. Win some, you lose some, but I'm happy to advocate for employees. So doesn't mean we give up, so we'll just keep going along. We also have some other perks and discounts, and we promoted river sport in Oklahoma City, for example. So we can involve families, and so it's not just our employees we focus on, but we also have benefits for families. We have a focus on them, and let's see, so our success measures will be increased usage of these benefits and discounts. Sometimes that can be as simple as someone letting me know, hey, I saw that discount, I used it, thank you. Getting more feedback in our survey results. And then, like I said, advocacy at the state level. So that's an overview, but overall we have phenomenal benefits that I'm very proud of, but we'll continue to monitor and see if there's anything that we can do to enhance them. So does anyone have any questions?
7% retirement, is that a matching?
It is not matching. How it works is the base salary amount and the value of the flex, we pay 7% on that dollar amount, and it's contributed to the retirement plan.
Automatic?
Yes,
And that's part of the state program for teachers.
yes, teachers' retirement.
That's in statute.
Yeah.
Great benefit for all in public education service.
Yes. Okay, yay. Thank you. I'll turn it over to Jessica.
Wonderful. Jessica.
Good morning. Melissa kind of mentioned what mine was about, but I want to point out, I don't think Russell mentioned this. Our senior leadership looked at the state employee engagement surveys, and I think this was great that they did this, and they looked at like the 3 top items that staff wanted us to work on maybe. And so telework communication was one, benefits was one, and then wanting more telework options was another. So I volunteered to chair that committee, and we had 33 volunteers. So it was a big committee, which showed quite a bit of passion about this topic that we saw people do pretty well with during COVID. So we met 3 times, and I had the committee members research different ideas, and we put on the Careertech Hub, which he spoke about, we put our research information out there, had them put their policy ideas in the same place, and then I presented that to managers and senior leaders to come up with a policy, and that's Melissa and HR and the committee came up with a policy that is now in place. It is monitored by managers. We know that not every position will allow for telework, but all employees now, if their position is available, get 40 hours a month. And managers can work with their divisions on what that looks like and monitor that. But we do have a policy in place. And from what I know, we don't really have matrix on this yet, but divisions are using it, and it seems to be going well. And again, it's another one of those work-life, family-life balances that employees seem to appreciate. So that's all on that one. Do you have any questions?
So how many hours of telework did y'all have before the policy was in place?
There wasn't really a policy in place.
It just kind of up to do?
Yeah, we had, some employees could set a day a week if they wanted to. There wasn't really an hour, am I right, Melissa? It was more of a day a week. And you could do that or AWS, which some employees do, which is you work 9-hour days and you can have every other Friday off, or that's another huge benefit at our agency. We have some flex schedule opportunities as well. And so if you could do telework or AWS, not both, and now it's available to all employees.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica.
All right. Now,
Yes, you can go to the next item. I keep gigging
it's
her.
split up here. Okay, so now we are looking at 4.01, discussion and vote on the Jobs for Americans graduate programs budgeted. So this is about, we heard a presentation, and now this is about your decision to direct the agency to spend their funds this way.
You want a motion and then discussion or discussion?
Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
All right, motion and a second. Any questions or discussion?
I have a few comments I'd like to make. Well, thank you to HL and Lisa so much for coming today and giving that. I just want everyone to know this was a directive. This isn't something we dreamed up. This was a directive that came to us. And when we are asked to do something, we show up. And so we're very excited about this. We don't have the exact numbers we spent last year, but we think it's in the area of 310,000 instead of the almost 600,000. Last time we talked about it being a vendor. This is not a vendor. The 25,000 is below the vendor bidding anyway for the agency, so it did not need to go out for bid. I want to remind you it's an affiliation fee. You have to start somewhere saving kids. And we believe this is a place that we can start somewhere to start saving these kids. And if we get, I'm sorry, Ms. Hanning, 325, the 90%, if we save that many, that's a start. The fee that we're paying, the amount we're paying for this program this next year is less, if you do the math, it's less than 1% of what our state allocations are. We're using dollars that have been assigned to us by the legislature for dropout recovery and dropout prevention. So we're using the dollars in an appropriate manner. I want to remind you that the teachers have been hired because we had to go forward with the program. Now, if the mood is not to approve this today, those teachers will be unemployed, and also, which is no big deal, but we will reimburse the schools for the training that they took last week in Nevada. So the schools will not be out the dollars if you decide not to go forward with this program. Again, I want to reiterate, in my mind, if we save one kid, and we're teaching them skills, and so we hope that we will save these people from not going into a life that is a dead end for them. We want to give them hope, we want to give them opportunity, and we want to impact the graduation rate here in the state. It's mainly what I wanted to say, and if anyone has a question of me, I'd be happy to answer.
Just a few questions, probably just because I'm later in on this conversation.
You're fine.
What does happen with the 45,000 of the corporate donation if the proposed budget is not accepted?
They will not have to spend those dollars. Is that right,
But
HL?
where do they?
It'll be reimbursed.
So we've already received those dollars. We'll reimburse Weyerhaeuser for that $45,000.
So it can't be used for other objectives furthering the dropout rate?
No, Weyerhaeuser, as Mr. Baird said, is a corporate partner, a corporate sponsor of JAG. And so they want those dollars to impact the students in their area so that they will hopefully have jobs with Weyerhaeuser.
How long has JAG been in the state of Oklahoma? Regardless of whether it's been housed here or another department, how long has it been in the state?
2 years.
Which years?
Well, this past year, when it was given to us, and then the year before, it was with OEQA.
So 2020 and 2021, this will be its third year, but we are halfway through this year.
Well, I would say it's 2021, 2022 if you use the fiscal year, and this will be year 23.
Because that's the budget that we are talking about right now.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So the first year, OEQA had like 600,000, if I recall, somewhere around there. Maybe that's that figure you're talking about that was $575,000. Is that the same, or is that a separate year? Okay.
If
And they,
Fiscal year 2022 has already closed. Why
Yes.
don't we know how much it's spent?
Because it just closed the end of June.
Okay.
And it takes a while to get all the figures together.
And then,
But we will report that to you no matter what the vote is.
Oh,
I want to
yeah.
make sure you know what it is.
and then just the last question regarding the Icap program. Does the Icap program have any type of component that's specifically geared toward dropout,
Yes.
recovery, or prevention?
yes. And there's also a line item budget for alternative education that has been increased by the legislature for schools to be able to actually take that work. They hire certified teachers to, that have the training and support, not as an elective, but this is like, that's their role, is to provide credit recovery, and the work that is braided together with Icap is actually more than this template
And
that
those
is
are
coming
also
nationally.
teachers funded at the local level through their schools.
Yes,
And they are occurring in the same schools that the JAG teachers are occurring.
yes.
So
And
they
it's,
coexist.
these are 6 teachers, it sounds like, that you're gonna hire. The schools are
Have
gonna
been
get a
hired.
grant. Okay, that's a problem. If we
School's
haven't,
starting
if
in
we
2
haven't
weeks.
approved something and you've already obligated, I mean, that's obviously, this was just something that I know was expected to happen last year. And today, we're realizing the train's moving regardless of what this board did.
I'd like to address that.
Okay.
The first obligation is not due until September.
Okay.
And we are willing to reimburse any training that happens if this program is not approved. But I want to tell you, with ICAP, we still have a 75% graduation rate. More needs to be done.
That's actually,
And we have to start somewhere.
yeah, so remember, Icap has been a pilot in 300 high schools until, for over a 3-year period. Last year is the first year where it is state mandated across all of our high schools. And it goes as low as 6th grade. It starts with OK Career Guide and OK College Start, which are the 2 online programs that JAG is gonna use. So it is, the need is so great, but this is just, I'm adding my editorial here, and that's not answering your question. But the need is so great. The actual graduation rate has been around 20% that are not graduating. This is a crisis in our state, and all of our kids deserve to have resources instead of a handful from 6 districts in a very expensive, and it's been around a long time, and there is not to disparage their program, but I go to the same national conferences and have these same people come forward, which is part of how we did our digging and took the meeting and looked at the research, and it is not as high quality.
Also a national program?
No, that is in legislation and homegrown through all of our systems working together to actually address this very significant need across the state.
And who funds it?
It is through the legislature that puts in the funds that go to Careertech, higher ed, and into the high schools, and the common education that goes all the way down into our elementary school. So the Icap program, OK College Start, that program is funded by Careertech. The OK Career Guide is funded by Careertech. OK College Start is funded by, it's a digital platform. It is funded by the Higher Ed Board of Regents. And then the place it all lives and works together for the online digital platform that every school uses is funded through the State Department of Education. So this is in addition and is duplicative and is serving far few kids, but this is what is being told and directed.
Who's in charge of ICAP?
It is a state mandate, every school is in charge.
But there's somebody that runs it.
Yes.
Who's that?
Yes. It
Who's
is
the main person?
The main,
Who's the UDM, ultimate decision maker?
the local school board. They hire their team. They have a capstone program in some of the schools. Enid is a great example of that, where this is a many years that you're building into, it streamlines into graduation. It takes care of those issues that are related to connecting with family, connecting with those who are key in helping our kids graduate, language barriers, Marshallese population. All
So-
of that is a part of Icap.
So I just have some comments to make, and basically is based on what I've learned in the last couple of months. So I brought up the question, how did we get this program? And we didn't even really, as a board, know about it. Been learning a lot more about it, but sadly, I don't know enough about Icap to be able to make a comparison between JAG and Icap, except for what you're explaining today. So, one, I would love to hear more information as a board. I think as a board, it's our responsibility, because if we vote for this, we're now providing funds that is comparative to potentially being in competition with another state program. But the second piece that I'll say is this. It seems to me that we have an organization that is going after those most at-risk kids. And so that's why at this particular juncture, I'm willing to make that investment as a vote. Obviously, I'm going to vote yes because I seconded the motion.
Sure.
But that's why. And so sometimes when we have measurements that are needed to be made, people work towards those measurements. So if we can affect 200 more kids, okay? So that's how I'm seeing it. We're getting to those most at risk because they have a personal interaction, not with a website, but with a person.
Yeah, and it's not with the website.
Okay.
That's a
Well,
tool.
so anyhow, I just wanted to kind of explain, that's what my thoughts are on this, and so, but I would love to learn more, and I think it would be great for us as a board to get a lot more information about the ICAP program, so.
Yes.
Dr. Denny, you mentioned that we were appropriated by the state for Dropout a certain number of dollars. What would the alternative use of those dollars be if we don't do this today?
I'm going to let Dr. Lockwood, because he works with Dropout Prevention with the agency, address that question.
And then just to add on part of that, in future budgets, if we do go forward with it, how would we appropriate that going forward to grow the program to a scale that is truly meaningful?
You know, if we, in the future, we would make a budget request, which is what we've been working on at the agency for the fall to present to the legislature. And so if we go forward with the program and we wanted to grow it, we would increase that budget request.
So this time next year, or I guess a month ago, when we're looking at the budget, we would either be looking at a approved legislative appropriation or probably not continuing.
Well, what we did last year was kind of last month, show you what we got and how we're going to spend it. This fall, we're actually working on our request for next year. You know, it's just a rolling thing with the budget. So we would work on, decide the programs that we want to look at and what's the most important for the agency going forward. And then we do our request, and then we present that to the legislature, usually in January in their pre-budget meetings. Dr. Lockwood?
The agency hosts a program that is called Dropout Recovery. So you're talking different terms, very minute difference. Dropout Recovery programs, we use appropriated dollars to operate programs within tech centers that they basically essentially sending school students that have or not on, will not, would not, or have not graduated. And it's really addressing students that have already dropped out. And they bring those students in, work on recovering, they're getting them so they are on track to get a diploma, at the same time couple them with a skilled trained area. And we presently have 7 programs in the state. Enrollment ranges from 30 students to the largest having 247. wide difference. Those programs have existed since the 90s. We continue to increase. We are adding, because we received $1 million extra for Dropout Recovery this year from the legislators. That money is adding new programs. We expect to increase funding to existing sites because they were cut the last several years as budgets have constricted. They were cut. We expect to replace those cuts plus an additional increase and probably 3 to 4 sites this year added in. We're still in the process of getting proposals in from schools. So that's Dropout. That's our Dropout Recovery programs, which is different. And that has, this Dropout Prevention has dovetailed into that. And that's where we're actually using some of that funding, which we consider it all the same intent. So we didn't think we were violating a legislative intent by using funds from that program to help support the JAG program.
And
if I
how many
misspoke
students are in that program?
Do what?
How many students are currently in that program?
Oh, I'd have to do the math. 247 down to 30. We have a 220. Trying to do math in my head. 30, 37, 45, 50, 80, 120. And so, probably I'd have to do the math, but 500-ish. And that's a strict ballpark because I haven't.
And the need every year for those who are not graduating, they're not finishing. So that's the way you mark that is your freshman year. Every year, it's measured and back with who is that class that started their freshman year and do they graduate by the end of that. And so you're looking at, these are people that have not made it across that finish line. And let's just take 20% as the ballpark here. So you're talking about probably 8,000 a year. That is about, what you're talking about is people who have dropped out and you're trying to, because they're showing up saying, I want a skill. And they've got to get their credits built up to graduate or take a GED. And so that credit recovery, that's a big need. So these are like two different kind of looking at where you are kind of approaching it from two different sides, right?
But the same program.
But that's where you're taking funds out of what is dedicated for that and saying, okay, we're going to do what I am just saying is much more expensive for those outcomes that we don't even know if they're going to happen. Because we haven't had a full year of this yet where, other than, I guess, last year, but you don't have any data about last year?
For JAG, that'd have to be HO and have to address JAG. I got JAG about a month ago, so I'm
Sure.
new to JAG.
Sure. So it's very important, but two different aspects. One is those who are motivated and showing up, saying, I want to do something to get back on track.
And how long has Icap been administered?
How long has it been administered?
Like,
It's a state law.
administered to.
Yeah, it's a state law. And I guess this would be, we're going on our 4th or 5th year. Yeah, but it's only been in certain schools, piloting, growing, okay? So then you have, and developing the whole system around it. So last year was the first year that it's a graduation requirement for all freshmen that enter. And so then you're gonna see the results of Icap by the time they graduate. So do you see how that works?
Yeah.
Of course, they're working right now all the way through, but it's that year, starting at the freshman year.
Yeah.
And so those kids that are under that state requirement and we don't have enough funds for that. The partnership could be really great.
Any other questions about Dropout Recovery?
No, thank you.
Different conversation, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lockwood.
How many schools did Icap start with?
In the first year of the pilot, probably 150 to 300 in those years.
So do we have some of the numbers of how those schools?
Profound, yes. Because it's
What
the
are some of
first.
the graduate,
Yeah, so it's the first, and we have an entire office dedicated to that here at the Department of Ed, working with those individuals who are the representative within their school to keep and implement Icap. The school counseling corps is part of that. All of that obviously is designed to work together.
So do you have some numbers?
Yeah. If you want Marissa Lightsey to give you a presentation, we would be love to do that. We've got a tremendous amount of data. And that's required. That's why I'm asking those questions about deliverables.
And I guess I just want to echo what Mr. Brown said about, reason I'm for it is, we're to try to reach out, to reach more, and if we can reach an additional 200 that is not paying attention in those classes, I think it's worth giving a program a try to see if we can make a difference. And being only a year into it, not really even a year into it, starting over, I guess is what we're doing. I think it's those students are worth investing some money in to see if we can make a difference this way as well. Like you had mentioned, working together from different angles at the same problem. And I do understand it is an expensive program.
3,000 or 1,000 something every child the program will be this year, right? Did you say 1,500 a child?
It'll be around 1,100.
1,100, got it.
I did a little bit up front. I took our 5-year average on dropout recovery. Expenses spent divided by number of students served, and it's about $1,150. So we're right in the same cost per student as dropout recovery. Let me say cost investment. We're about the same investment. So absolutely agree that Icap is a part of everything. A student that's in a technology center in a high school will have multiple avenues in which Icap is served. In other words, to meet the Icap need for graduation, they'll experience it everywhere. I agree, it is a huge problem. We have lots of partners in the state trying to find ways to address specific audiences, whether it's DRS, WIOA, those sort of things. This is our way to target students that are specifically identified with the school. Maybe we keep them out of an alternative school to provide the services to get them to that finish line. We're supporting it, we believe in it.
Does Icap have a corporate partner or any corporate money?
Throughout the whole state, but not the one investor that gave money and said, I want these schools. That's different. You've said that there was a donor that gave $45,000 and said, I'll give you $45,000 for these particular Broken Bow, at least, or particular schools to do.
Jack National has a tremendous sponsor list. Boeing's, Honeywell, the list that you would see, recognize immediately. Some of them that I didn't, but.
So you could get other corporate sponsors?
Absolutely. So it's a little bit different in the fact that Weyerhaeuser said we're committed to JAG in our communities. They see it as a value, but so does Boeing, so does Honeywell, and like I said, I'm hitting the ones that I'm an aerospace nut, so that's why you're going to see me hit those. But
One more question, is it a nonprofit organization or
it's a
for-profit?
nonprofit organization.
All right, we've had a motion and a second. Any other questions? All right, please call the roll.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Dillingham?
Yes.
Ms. Hanning?
No.
Mr. Hillary?
Yes.
Superintendent Hoffmeister?
No. All right, that motion does not carry. All right, thank you. Let's move to the next, and that is a 4.02, discussion and vote on the mid-year personnel report and ratification of personnel actions.
You should have a document in your packet, and it represents all of our personnel actions between January 1st of '22 and June 30th of '22. And we present this to the board for their review, and as as Superintendent Hoffmeister said, also ratification and a vote. And as you look through, if you have any questions, just let me know.
Any questions? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Second. All right. Any other comments or questions here? All right, please call the roll.
Mr. Hillary,
Yes.
Ms. Hanning,
Yes.
Mr. Dillingham,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Superintendent Hoffmeister.
Yes. All right, that motion carries. And now on 4.03, this is the discussion and vote on Southern Technology Center. Distance education credit.
Yes, you guys are all familiar with this now, right? Okay, so ODCTE, the agency is required to evaluate distance education programs. And remember, that's different than the institutional accreditations that we do every 5 years. We use the standards that this board has approved, and then our accreditation division goes out and conducts the activities. The standards address program integrity, resources and technology, learning development, instruction, skill attainment, assessment, student support and services, marketing and recruitment, student engagement, satisfaction, and program effectiveness and improvement. For this school, the examiner team is comprised of agency staff and our program specialists. That's who go out to do the distance education programs. Also, during the visit, we talk with instructors and administrators and certified staff. Due to distance education, remember being new, for our technology centers, we will go out in January to all approved programs to make sure that everything's working properly, and what we've approved today is what is happening in the schools. So on May 4th, the accreditation division and program specialist went out to Southern Technology Center in Ardmore, and we looked at 16 programs that they are going to offer a percentage of distance education. You have those in your reports. We've actually continued to work with Southern, and today we recommend that the board grant full accreditation to Southern Technology Center. Distance education programs. Are there any questions?
In looking at the minimum standard band of 110 versus 180 as the max, there were 3 of the programs that were hugging the lower band. So this is really just more of a question. When you see that kind of scoring, I don't know whether to say, oh, we've got work to do in those 3 areas, or yay, we got to, how do you look at that?
I think the biggest thing to keep in mind is this is new for our system and for career and technology education in general. And so our program specialists do score that way, and it's more of us to, like I said, we will go back in January and make sure that everything is working correctly. And maybe they've taken some of the recommendations that you guys probably read some of those in their comments from our program specialists. It's new.
Could I add something?
Sure.
You mind, Jessica? It's kind of like when you get your health report, and I mean, it kind of is, and your cholesterol is normal, but it's just about to go over, so you make adjustments. And so that's what, so we're going to go with the other end, if you're kind of low, but you're in the normal, you realize that, and then you work to get those numbers up.
Okay.
So that's what I would akin it to, a health report. Is that okay?
That's great, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. And we, like I said, our program specialists have given some recommendations, but they are meeting our requirements as far as what our guidelines and our agency rules state. And we do have a representative from the school here as well.
Would you have anything you would want to address the board?
Hi, everybody. I'm the Assistant Superintendent at Southern Tech.
Would you come up to the mic, because our viewing audience certainly wants to hear from you.
Hi, I'm Dr. Bills, Assistant Superintendent at Southern Tech. Dr. Ward, our superintendent, actually, we have our board meeting going on, so he could not make it. So I am here, and we are thrilled to be a part of this process. and we are working on our cholesterol. So we're in conversations, close conversations with our program specialists, and this is new. And I think if anything, one thing that COVID did, it did tell us that education can be different. And so we're really leaning into the theoretical portions of career tech and allowing our students to do more shop work and do the theory online through distance education. And so we appreciate the support that we're getting from the State Department. We'll continue to grow and make education better. So, any questions?
No, just thank you for.
You bet.
all your work.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you for your dedication.
Move for approval.
Second.
All right. Any other comments or questions? All right, seeing none, please call the roll.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Dillingham?
Yes.
Ms. Hanning?
Yes.
Mr. Hillary?
Yes.
Superintendent Hoffmeister?
Yes. All right, that motion carries. And now, item 4.04 is a proposed executive session. Would our council or is there a recommendation to go into executive session?
Yes, please.
All right.
Make Director Denny be allowed in as well.
All right, very good. This is to discuss the state director search. All right, is there a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
Second.
Yes. All right, please call the roll.
Mr. Hillary?
Yes.
Ms. Hanning?
Yes.
Mr. Dillingham?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Superintendent Hoffmeister?
Yes. All right. All right, we will thank those of you who joined us and appreciate your giving us the room for executive session.
Okay, point taken.
Okay. All right, is there a motion to come out of executive session?
Make a motion to come out of executive session.
A second.
Yep, we have a second to come out. All right, please call the roll.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Dillingham?
Yes.
Ms. Hanning?
Yes.
Mr. Hillary?
Yes.
Superintendent Hoffmeister?
All right, yes. So we are out of executive session. Just for our record and minutes. No decisions were made or no votes cast during executive session. We did have our state interim director there as well as our attorney. And now I will ask if there are, item 5, any announcements that you have? And if not, then we are going to, this does not have an adjournment as an action item, so we can just adjourn.
Sweet.
All right. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.